The moment the boy stepped in front of the grocery cart, thin arms stretched wide as if his small body could shield the world behind him, something inside the single-dad CEO cracked open without warning. His polished shoes paused on the cracked pavement, the hum of the city fading into a distant echo, because in the child's trembling eyes was a fear too old, too heavy, for someone so young. It was the kind of fear that only hunger teaches, the kind that grows when hope has been skipped too many times like a missed meal. The boy's lips shook, his clothes hung loose on his frame, and the words he carried felt louder than any scream, even though they were spoken softly. In that instant, the man who commanded boardrooms and billion-dollar deals felt smaller than he ever had in his life. If you believe that kindness can change lives, that second chances exist even in the darkest moments, take a second right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that are quietly breaking. The single-dad CEO had built his life on control over markets, over outcomes, over his own emotions. Years earlier, after losing his wife to a sudden illness, control had been the only thing that kept him standing while raising his young daughter alone. He learned to wake before sunrise, pack lunches with one hand while checking emails with the other, and bury grief under schedules and success. His company grew into an empire. His name became a symbol of discipline and vision, but behind the glass walls of his penthouse apartment, silence followed him like a shadow. His daughter, now a teenager, lived mostly with her grandparents, while he convinced himself that providing everything meant being a good father, even if his presence was rare. That afternoon, he was not supposed to be there. A canceled meeting and a wrong turn had led him into a forgotten neighborhood where buildings leaned like tired men, and the air smelled of dust and survival. He had stopped briefly to pick up groceries, annoyed at the inconvenience, unaware that this detour was about to dismantle the careful walls he had built around his heart. The cart held simple food, nothing extravagant, yet to the boy standing before him, it might as well have been treasure. The CEO noticed details he usually ignored. The child's hands were rough, nails bitten down, skin marked by small scars of responsibility. Behind him, a woman sat on the curb, her body folded inward as if she were trying to disappear, her breathing shallow and uneven. Sickness clung to her like a second skin. The boy kept glancing back at her, torn between fear and duty, the kind of conflict no child should ever carry. The man felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest, a memory surfacing of his own daughter clutching his sleeve the night her mother died, silently begging the world not to change any more than it already had. He had spent years donating to charities through assistance and signatures, believing generosity could be outsourced like everything else. But standing there, face to face with hunger and desperation, those gestures suddenly felt hollow. This was not a line item on a report. This was a child guarding food as if it were life itself, because for him, it truly was. The CEO realized how insulated his life had become, how far removed he was from the raw edges of existence, where survival was a daily negotiation. The neighborhood watched quietly. People had learned not to interfere, not to hope too much. Promises often came dressed well and left quickly. The boy's courage wavered, but he did not move. That kind of bravery, born from love rather than strength, struck the man deeper than any business loss ever had. He thought of his daughter, again, of how easily her life could have turned out differently if circumstances had been less kind, if support had not existed when he needed it most. Something shifted. Then, the CEO knelt, not as a gesture of pity but of respect, bringing himself closer to the child's level. He noticed the boy relax just slightly, as if the world had lowered its voice. Time stretched, and in that space the man felt the weight of every decision he had ever made that prioritized profit over people, distance over connection. He understood, perhaps for the first time, that success meant nothing if it could not reach moments like this. The days that followed did not resolve themselves neatly. Helping once was easy. Staying involved was not. The CEO arranged medical care for the boy's mother, discovering her illness had gone untreated for months, because choosing medicine meant choosing hunger. He learned their names, their routines, the fragile balance they maintained just to get through each day. The boy attended school irregularly, working small jobs to afford food, his childhood slipping through his fingers like sand. Each visit the CEO made stripped away another layer of his old self, exposing grief he had never properly faced. At home, his daughter noticed the change. He was quieter, more present, asking questions he had never taken time to ask before. She saw photos on his phone of the neighborhood, the people, the boy. For the first time, she saw her father not as an untouchable figure behind achievements, but as a man wrestling with empathy and regret. Their conversations deepened, healing something that had long been strained by absence. The mother's condition slowly improved with treatment, but recovery was fragile. There were setbacks, moments when hope flickered dangerously low. The CEO found himself awake at night, not because of market volatility, but because he feared failing them the way he felt he had failed his own family after his wife's death. He realized that his relentless pursuit of success had been a shield against pain, and now that shield was cracking, letting both sorrow and compassion flood in. Word spread quietly, others in. The community began to trust him, sharing stories of struggle, of dreams deferred by circumstance. The CEO listened more than he spoke, learning that leadership did not always mean solutions but presence. He funded programs not as branding exercises, but as commitments, returning often, unannounced, making sure promises held weight. Each time, the boy greeted him with cautious hope, his eyes slowly losing that haunted edge. The transformation was not just external. Inside, the CEO confronted his grief honestly for the first time. He spoke of his wife, of the night everything changed, of the loneliness that followed even in rooms full of people. In helping this family, he was also tending to wounds he had ignored for years. He understood now that pain shared does not diminish strength, it deepens it. As months passed, the boy returned to school full-time. The mother regained enough strength to work part-time, her smile returning in small tentative ways. The CEO remained present, not as a savior, but as someone who walked alongside them. His company's culture began to shift too, influenced by his changed priorities. Employees noticed a new emphasis on humanity, on balance, on purpose beyond profit. Near the end of this journey, on a quiet evening, the CEO watched the boy laugh freely for the first time, chasing light across a small courtyard. That sound, unburdened and bright, filled him with an emotion he struggled to name. It felt like redemption, like forgiveness he had never known he was seeking. He realized that the greatest legacy he could leave his daughter was not wealth, but the example of compassion in action. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us we are not alone. And before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with the word HOPE if you believe that even one small act of compassion can change a life. The boy no longer stood in front of food with fear in his eyes. He stood taller now, protected not just by help, but by dignity restored. And the single dad CEO understood that in saving a family from hunger, he had also saved himself from a life of emotional starvation. In a world driven by numbers and noise, it was a quiet plea, spoken from a child's heart, that taught him what truly matters.